Honorable Deputy Speaker, members of this House, to the leadership of the Defence Force that is here, Bagaetsho dumelang. Let me begin by asking the fundamental question in saying, Gore, ga ne le bana ba rona a ne re ka kgona go nna bo botlhe mo ntlong ye re ba re a ba ye ko ntweng ko DRC ba sena ditlhobolo ba sena thuso ba ile go swela fale. Honorable members, I want to send my deep condolences to the families who have lost their loved ones. It is often said that soldiers die in fields they have not chosen. The leadership of this House chose that field to be the Eastern DRC. And ultimately, the question will continue to haunt us. If these were our children, would we send them? I want to highlight a few things. The distortion of facts is simply this, that we are going on a peacekeeping mission. No, we are not. We are going on a combat mission with no equipment, with no supplies, and our young people are being killed there. Furthermore, fellow South Africans, I want to say a few things that must happen, and I want to be unequivocal. Let us bring back our troops back home. They have no business there. It's getting worse by the day. People are dying. More people are being displaced, yet we keep thinking we can come here by tinkering with the budget and send more troops. It is not going to result in peace. The second issue is that the financial sustainability of this war is not there. Under Operation Tiba and Operation Vikela, we took money from social development, sending troops to Mozambique and other places, and said, let's send our troops there. What we are in fact saying is that while we go to the DRC, for the South African child, there will be no more teachers, no more social development. We simply don't have the fiscal wiggle room to send troops to the DRC. Thirdly, we are sitting here with the corpses of our troops still stuck in the DRC. If we are serious in honoring their lives, we should take every effort to bring back our troops home. It is an immediate call, fellow South Africans. And ultimately, I want to urge that our leadership role must be one to find a peaceful mediation. Let us call for a dialogue between M23 and Tshisekedi so that we can find a response there. Let's ensure that Rwanda withdraws its troops from DRC, and let's compel Rwanda's government to dismantle the FDLR. It's the only way we are going to find. Lastly, this parliament must commission inquiry to ensure that we find out how many have died, what the financial implications are, and how quickly do we end this circus that is taking place. We are not silencing the guns, we are increasing violence. And therefore, honorable members, I leave you with this question. If these were your children, will you send them to DRC? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Speaker, I would like to begin by sending our condolences to the families of the 14 members of the South African National Defence Force who recently lost their lives in the DRC. We cannot continue to refer to them through a number because they've got names. We salute Staff Sergeant William Edikola. We salute Staff Sergeant Molatley Ishmael Molatley. We salute Staff Sergeant Swatani Theophilus Sepe, Corporal Matumi Justice Malesa, Corporal Renae Namavulani, Lance Bombardier Itumeleng McDonald Moreo, Lance Corporal Zeke Moffat Molapo, Lance Corporal Metzi Stensley Rashishi, Rifleman Svatani Richard Chokwe, Rifleman Derek Maluleke, Rifleman Tsidiso Andres Mabele, Rifleman Calvin Louis Moari, Rifleman Muketi Joseph Mobe, Private Peter Jacobus Strido. The reckless deployment of South African troops in the DRC under the South African Development Community SADC mission in the Democratic Republic of Congo, SAMI DRC, which began in December 2023, was presented to us as a peacekeeping effort. However, the truth is that our soldiers are not there to maintain peace. They are engaged in a direct combat, fighting against the highly armed and strategically superior M23 rebels who are supported by the reckless president of Rwanda, Paul Kagame. Our government has deliberately misled the people. The reality is that our soldiers are fighting an enemy that has better weaponry, better resources, and better intelligence. While the rebels possess advanced military equipment, our soldiers are sent to battle without drones, without fighter jets, and without critical military assets. They are left vulnerable, fighting a war they cannot win, all because of the failures of this government. The recent M23 offensive on Goma has highlighted significant shortcomings in the South African National Defence Force deployment. Intelligence failures were evident as the SNDF lacked timely and accurate information to anticipate the M23 movements, leaving our forces unprepared for the assault. Coordination between the South African National Defence Force, regional allies, and the Congolese military was inadequate, leading to a fragmented response and over-reliance on local forces that quickly collapsed under pressure. The SNDF response can also be criticized for its sluggishness, allowing M23 to seize strategic positions before effective action was taken. Political considerations were often overshadowed military necessities, limiting our forces' effectiveness. Leadership on the ground also failed to provide clear directives, resulting in disorganized retreats and unprepared casualties. These issues culminated in tragic losses. For over a decade, we have watched as the South African National Defence Force has been systematically weakened. Budget cuts have crippled our military ability to function effectively. Aircrafts and helicopters that should provide air cover for our troops are grounded due to lack of maintenance. The government has neglected its duty to ensure that our soldiers are adequately prepared and equipped for combat. This is despite the fact that this deployment has cost our government 2.3 billion since it began. But it does not end there. The defense sector has been ravished by corruption. Officials at Denel have looted and mismanaged funds, selling South Africa's defense technology to foreign entities. This is nothing short of treason. At the same time, the Department of Defense has wasted over 250 million outsourcing IT services while ignoring existing in-house capabilities. This is a blatant theft of state resources, and it is our soldiers who pay the price. We must be clear, the deployment of our troops in the DRC is not about achieving peace. It is about sacrificing our soldiers for war that has no end in sight. This government continues to send them to die in foreign land, and when they do, their bodies are not even repatriated with the dignity they deserve. We are still waiting for the bodies, even after the Chief of Defense said the bodies will come the following day. The South African National Defence Force soldiers who passed away in the last few weeks have still not arrived home, with several delays being blamed, which is unacceptable. The families of these fallen soldiers are left waiting, grieving and struggling for answers. Our troops be brought home immediately. We cannot allow more lives to be lost in a senseless conflict while corrupt politicians continue to loot and mismanage our defense resources. Bring them back home now. This past weekend, South Africa participated in a joint SADC and East African Community Summit in Tanzania to discuss DRC crisis. We agree that there must be ceasefire, and we agree that the chiefs of the military must come together to create a clear passage of the ceasefire. Re role now ba etapele ba ANC le rekisitse bana ba rena le re tsegisha ka madagere. Thank you.
Honorable Speaker, from the Patriotic Alliance, we just want to give our deepest and most sincerest condolences to the families. But Speaker, I think this House, all of us, need to do some soul searching. We cannot be leaders. We are busy debating here while our soldiers are not back. The families of the ones that died must now watch on TV hoping to get some information. There was no rush for this debate. This debate could have been moved until we got our fallen soldiers back, and then we can come here and speak about this. Speaker, this is not the time to point fingers. We have been humiliated. We have been humiliated. We have been humiliated. And we must teach people, when you kill a South African, there's consequences. We are sitting with the highest youth unemployment in the world. Let us use this opportunity and call for conscription, Honorable President, and bring our young people and train them. And while we train them, let us go and teach M23 a lesson. Let us go and kill those that killed our soldiers. I don't know, Speaker. These ones are talking a lot here. We need soldiers. You call yourself Commissar, you call yourself CIC, we need you there. There's people that we need you to go fight. We are tired here in Parliament of toy soldiers. We want, this is war. People are dying. You are calling yourself titles here. Go and fight. I will be one of the first to join the battalion to go and fight. Let us go and get our people, and you must follow me. Let's go and fight real fights, not these fake names of the army. I salute you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable the Minister.
Honorable members, I stand shoulder to shoulder with my esteemed parliamentary colleagues, united in our tribute to the fallen heroes of our National Defence Force members, the Malawi Defence Force members, the Tanzanian Defence Force members, and the Uruguay Defence Force, under the UNESCO and the SAMI DRC. It is not just a tragedy for our country. It is a tragedy that has befallen UNESCO. It is a tragedy that has also befallen the SAMI DRC. It is an international tragedy. The budget and resources for the mission doesn't only come from the South African National Defence Force. It comes from SADC through the SAMI DRC and also through the UN Security Council. The argument that the mission is not well funded or is underfunded, therefore is devoid of the truth. Because the budget comes from the UN, SAMI DRC, and indeed we also contribute. So it is therefore unfounded that we have sent our troops without a clearly defined budget. Because in instances of these kind of missions, it's not the responsibility of a single country. Hence we had Malawi, we had Uruguay, we had Tanzania, and other countries participating in UNESCO that are funded through the UNESCO process. As a nation, we have a responsibility to protect, defend, and encourage our defense force. Let us collectively embrace their memory, cherish the lives lost, and enable cause for peace. The security situation in the Eastern DRC predates 1994 and has escalated over time. Several illegal armed groups, including the ADF, FDLR, LRA, Red Tabara, and M23, continue to operate in the Eastern DRC and have since morphed into about 150 local armed groups with a presence in North and South Kivu provinces. The recent developments in the Eastern DRC could reconfigure these groups. The net outcome of this scenario has been cynical insecurity, displacement both internally and externally, sexual exploitation and abuse as well as gender-based violence as an instrument of war, illicit exploitation and trafficking of natural resources, and erosion of authority of the state, amongst others. Human security and development has thus been extensively undermined. Various peace initiatives have recognized the need for a dialogue with all armed groups and the state actors to resolve the conflict. Hence, the recent summit of East Africa and the SADC region resolving on this matter again. There has also been recognition of a peacekeeping mission to support the government of the DRC in achieving peace. Hence, the UN deployed in the various stages of the conflict. SADC and East Africa community. There has been various deployments from the UN, SADC, and many other missions to the DRC. because there is a recognition that the DRC alone cannot handle this conflict. There is also a recognition that no one country can help resolve the conflict. The current mission of SAMI DRC is not an exception on the need. South Africa's peacekeeping contribution in the Democratic Republic of Congo over the years, through personnel deployed as part of infantry battalion, helicopter units and military medical teams, have been essential to efforts to build peace and ensure the health and safety of our fellow peacekeepers. This is not me speaking. These are the words of the Under-Secretary General of Peace Operation, Jean Peace Lecroix of the United Nations. If you thought it's propaganda. Our freedom is a product of international solidarity. One of the pillars of our struggle was international solidarity. This led to the frontline states playing a key role in our struggle. Hence, we ended up with the Battle of Kute Canovaro in Angola, the Maseru massacre, and the Matole raid by the Medara's apartheid regime. Since the dawn of our democracy, our country has been an unwavering champion for peace and justice in the continent and the globe. The principle of sovereignty, integrity of nation, as contained in Article 2 of the UN Charter, is sacrosanct. It must be defended by all peace-loving nations of the world, and South Africa is no exception. It is against this background that the SADC also has its own in terms of Article 6 of the SADC Treaty on Defense, which states the following: an armed attack on a state party shall be considered as a threat to the regional peace and security and shall be met with immediate collective action. We are not immune to regional conflict. Hence, we have got the responsibility to defend, protect, and ensure peace in the region, and an attack and response to any security situation in our region. Recognizing that a peaceful Africa is crucial for economic and social development for the continent, we participated in a lot of peace missions in the continent, in Sudan, Ethiopia, Mozambique, South Sudan, and so on, to silence the guns in line with Vision 2063 of the African Union. In the DRC, we have not only participated through SAMI DRC, we have participated in building a state from the scratch, helping SARS, helping all measures of state building. We are currently in South Sudan doing the same, helping South Sudan to transition to a democratic elections. This will not happen out of context. It has to be a deliberate, progressive policy of the South African government to intervene in the continent. And we will do so unapologetically. We have a responsibility and will not be blackmailed by those who accuse our president or anyone, or even the ANC, of some kind of economic interest. As I have stated, all our missions have been informed by the UN Charter, by the SADC Protocol, by our interest to see peace in the continent and nothing else. It is also our interest to see economic prosperity anywhere in the African continent. Hence, you have South African companies in most parts of the African continent. There is no part of the continent where you don't have South African companies. You have MultiChoice in Nigeria and all over the country. You have got MTN all over the continent. It's a duty we owe to the continent to ensure that there is economic prosperity, because economic prosperity anywhere in the continent is economic prosperity in South Africa. According to the UN, we are one of the most receiving countries of migrants in the continent. It is therefore crucial that we play a role to maintain peace, to achieve economic stability in the continent. You will not only receive people here just because there is a conflict, but conflicts arise out of a fight for natural resources, for economic challenges. That's why our policy on foreign policy is very clear. Support peace and stability through dialogue, which we are supporting through multilateral platform. But we also have an economic policy that must help in terms of economic diplomacy to ensure that the African continent prosper. The Africa Free Trade Program and various flagship programs aim to resolve the economic challenges of our continent. are part of the progressive policies of this government of South Africa. And this is acknowledged across the globe, not only in the African continent. The UN Security Council recognized the important role played by South Africa in peacekeeping mission in the continent. The UN recognized the role played by South Africa in the economic development in the African continent. The debate on critical minerals in the continent, we are one of those that are leading this discussion. We will be soon hosting the G20. We have a responsibility as a country to drive to ensure that the debate on critical minerals, it must benefit the African continent. We do not fail to succeed and achieve in this phase of the minerals endowment this continent has. So this House, in this critical juncture, has got a collective responsibility to help the government of national unity to ensure that there is peace in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. We have got a collective responsibility not only on political and economic grounds. The ECDC has warned that if this conflict goes unattended, we run a risk of a pandemic in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, but which can override all over the continent. This is a mostly densely populated society, not only in Africa, but in the whole world. So we will be reckless, we will be irresponsible not to participate to resolve the conflict in the Eastern DRC. We have a duty to ensure that this conflict is resolved through the EAC and also through the SADC mission, which I have already stated and I have spoken about. It is an important instrument that must assist us to resolve this conflict and through the processes of the African Union. I have heard honorable members saying we must withdraw. And some of them have said we must do it now. I want to say that an abrupt withdrawal, as called upon by some in the House, is not even a tactical retreat. It is even worse than a surrender. As with the numbers of armed groups in the area, there lies an ambush. How do you immediately withdraw when there are 150 armed groups that are not controlled by anyone? You are sending our troops yourself to an ambush, because as they leave, they will be running to many ambushes that are uncoordinated and unknown. It is against this background, that the South African government support the processes of the East Africa and the SADC region of a ceasefire, of reopening of the Goma airport, of reopening of the supply routes to enable the normalization of the situation. When the situation has been normalized and there has been a proper assessment, our boys and men will definitely come back home. But there must be a process, there must be calculated means that are undertaken, that we make sure that what we are deployed for them does materialize, does exist, and it is achieved. We will not deter as the South African government. We will march forward to ensure peace in the Eastern DRC. Thank you very much.